not working.
Yeah, I have the audio.
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number. If you have entered an incorrect access code or PIN, or you have not set up a PIN for your account. Your entry 24773454999 is not valid, or the meeting has not started yet. Re-enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. If you are the meeting host, enter your PIN followed by a pound. Thanks for using Webex. Visit our website at www.webex.com.
Okay. Good day. All right, well, welcome to the Selectmen meeting, January 4th, 2021. Happy New Year to everyone. We will begin the agenda. So the first item is to review the minutes of the 21st of December. May we have a motion, please, to get it on the table?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, discussion on it? Okay, hearing none.
Actually, that one thing. I think this part was confusing to listen to.
Which part?
8 other business. Fourth paragraph.
Maybe you could swing that boom around because there you go.
Fourth paragraph. This is regarding the email that we all got from Nicole, and I think it was a confusing discussion. I don't think I presented it very clearly.
So which paragraph is it?
Fourth one down.
Fourth.
Basically, what I was trying to say is Nicole had sent us all an email regarding OSHA regulations regarding COVID. And I think I had discussed the fact that OSHA had been fining municipalities for certain things, like their masks were not fit correctly. They're wearing the N95 masks. So what I had hoped to get across there is that I'd rather have to say Selectman Nozel reported she received an email from Nicole Strajahar asking about OSHA regulations regarding COVID, and that Selectman Nozel suggested adding COVID-related protocols. Selectman Nozel added that wearing masks appropriately should be included in our COVID protocols. If that's agreeable with you guys, I'll type that out.
Yeah.
But that's what I was trying to say.
Is OSHA getting into this stuff?
Yes, that email that Nicole sent us, I looked at it. Basically, OSHA guidelines concerning COVID are part of protocols we have to look at going forward. And then I go into towns and they have been finding people that, for example, were wearing N95s that hadn't, they don't fit correctly. Now in Connecticut, we have a order by our governor that basically says that particular requirement is waived. But nevertheless, it was an area that I had thought about before Nicole sent that to us, that we should at least consider when we review our COVID protocol.
Okay.
So if I'll type that out and make it less murky.
All right. All right, so we'll get some language on that to be entered. All right, we can vote with that clarification. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, all set. Okay. Now, next meeting we do the appointments. I don't know if Michelle provided you guys a preliminary list of the January appointments. If not, I'll put one in the box. But, you know, we have our typical... Did you all get that?
I got it.
Okay.
I haven't missed my mail today. It wasn't there last week.
So I'll try to go through and make sure everything's included that we want to include. So next meeting we can incorporate this, and that'll be an agenda item. The whole group.
Can we go back to communications? I put none on the agenda, but we did have a few, and I just want to make sure we all received them.
From whom?
We all received communications from Michaela Pearson regarding the Sunview water connection.
Oh, yeah. Well, I called her. I mentioned to her that she was, according to Connecticut Water, she was mistaken. That property should be connected to the deep main. So I put her in touch with, gave her the telephone number of the person to call. So that's where it stands.
Okay.
It's not in our domain.
Okay, thank you. And then we got a letter, I think the day of our last meeting, from the EDC chair recommending the appointment of Mona Rowe to the EDC.
Yeah, well, I think we can consider that, the next time rather than do it.
Okay. And
There's another one actually as well, for another position that came in.
Okay.
So rather than do it just a month ahead, we can probably just debate that.
Okay.
There's two.
And then I received a communication, I'm not sure if it came to the two of you, I forwarded to you, I just can't recall, regarding the Board of Selectmen to consider using drones for the Midsummer Festival light show as opposed to fireworks. Possibly the drones that some towns use, like the Olympics use for their light show.
The drones to provide some kind of recap of it?
No, to actually be the light show as opposed to fireworks. So I'll send you the email. It came before the holidays, and I wasn't sure. I can't.
No, I never got one, so if you can forward it to me.
Okay, I'll send it.
Okay. I think with respect to the COVID, I'm going to stop putting in numbers because the current one as of the 1st of January is 155. And the way this reporting happens, it's, I believe Michelle has figured out how to access the historical information, but it changes so radically that I think I can just try to get the sheet on a day of the meeting. But it's an ever-changing, and I know Dave sent a number of the ages and gender, but it came in a group of 13, for instance, so it's very difficult to try to identify the actual statistics with the dates and the increase in the number. So
regarding that, so Dave sent you the lists, or a list of,
Well, what I get from Dave is age and gender, that's it. Before we used to get the date, the age, the gender, and he would get the address. But it becomes such a project to try to reconcile what he sends along to these number counts that it's going to be too much reconciliation, I think. I think the DPH website has information on a daily basis, but in terms of trying to create a list like this of when actual increases occurred, you have to have you have to know where you're going. You might have found it, but
yes.
I tried for about half an hour between Ledgelight and the DPH, and I said, this is too much. I was not getting very far. So I think we could maybe get the Friday date. I mean, obviously the first it's not the third or fourth, but and probably with the weekend they didn't do reporting over the weekend. So, well, I realize it's interesting to have the number as of a certain date, but I guess you could say as of December 29th or something, but trying to reconcile this just isn't working. So we'll figure that out. But the Ledgelight one has pretty good information about other statistics, and I think notwithstanding, when you look back 4 or 5 months, we were in pretty small numbers, so the acceleration has been more dramatic of the last month. We from the 9th of December, or actually the 8th of December it was 100, now it's 155, so basically in a month it's gone up 55, whereas it took us took us several months to get to that number from the beginning. So, but I think that's the trend in Connecticut as well. I think the school is still doing remarkably well, and I think when you do the statistics, the positivity rate is probably reasonably favorable and so forth. So, and another statistic I'm not sure of is you hear on the TV news about the different states and the hospitals and the ICU beds are over 100% committed and so forth. I'm not sure how our hospitals, New Haven, Hartford, New London, how they're doing, what their occupancy rate is, if you will. So I think we just continue to do our best, be vigilant, and then there'll be some information on the vaccine. I think we've heard that the Group 1A, which are medical responders and police, I believe, and nursing home residents would be in the first group. But as to how that is progressing, I'm not sure. Dave was saying 1B, ostensibly the second group. I don't know that that's been properly defined. It could include essential workers, but I don't think we've really heard. I would think it would be very helpful to understand, okay, we have 1A, 1B, 1C, or just 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it. So we have an idea of what groups of people are in what categories, and what is the expected time frame. I think Dave indicated that the town hall staff is supposed to submit some information because this information is provided to the state, and then ultimately people would be advised when they can seek to get an appointment for the vaccine. But whether that's a month, 2 months, or just what, it's hard to say. So I think right now it's all we can say is that probably emergency medical responders and undoubtedly police and long-term health care, probably staff and patients are in this first group, and I don't know how long that'll be before that group is sufficiently immunized. So.
Well, I know our police already went over to Saybrook and got immunized.
That's what I heard, yeah.
So they're all set.
Well, for the first shot.
Yeah, for the first time, yeah. But it's, I guess it's 2-part series.
Yep. But on the news, I heard that the vials contained more fluid than they thought. I mean, obviously the vial's a vial, but it seemed like it was doing more than the prescribed amount. So that would be good news. But then there was talk about, well, maybe we will postpone the second shot so that more people can get the first shot, because it might not be time critical to get the second shot. But I don't know what percentage of coverage you would have by having 1 shot versus 2. So there's a lot of different things going around and finger pointing about why it's taking so long and so forth. So hopefully it will get more clarity here.
Well, I know that you received an email on the 12th from Electric about the ban system. Because as we all got all those emails last week from people saying what's Oldline doing about the vaccinations that are critical employees. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at the ban system, but Steve Mansfield and the other health districts have been having ongoing webinars on the ban system, and there's information on the Department of Public Health website on how to access it. It's pretty straightforward. But this information came out by email to all the CEOs of all the 9 towns and the health district to basically select a coordinator to input the very basic information for the eligible employees. So in this case, 1A, the school is doing their own, like Chris said, the fire is doing their own, EMS is doing their own, and David's doing the town hall, public works, and senior center. So when we get the definition for 1B, he will be able to upload that information, and it's appropriate when we're allowed to go into 1B. I heard from the nurse at the school, the nurses there are going to get their vaccination, their first shot today, the OT and PT. So it does sound like the critical employees in town are getting the word out. And I guess what happened yesterday in Saybrook was kind of like a pop-up vaccination. The Saybrook had extra vaccination, and through the grapevine out of the EMS and fire department, they were notified to come over, and someone told me that they felt that there were about 1,000 vaccinations given out yesterday, so that's terrific. It'd be nice to know where we're at. I'm sure we'll get that information as you go forward, because they get a copy of a card that basically says when they got their vaccination, and they get to go on vans then and make their appointment for their second vaccination too. And as for the extra in the vial, I can tell you that the way the vaccination was developed and tested was using certain syringes. If you use other type of syringes where they can get the last drops out of it, then you can get the extra vaccination out of there. So it will determine what clinic what equipment the clinics have as to how much they can get out of the vials. And I know that because my husband's working on that.
No,
So,
good. Yeah.
So that is all being worked through also. But all the study was done, all the research was done on getting 2 doses. And so the sooner we get our first responders all vaccinated, the sooner then they, especially on the surge, it takes 2 weeks for immunity to develop and get the amount of immunity that they need to continue to be safe on the job and protect us.
Yeah, it's a little muddled right at the moment, but in due course, I guess. In line with what we were talking about in the way of Nicole's memo and stuff, maybe we can work on the protocol itself, because I know I went through it and did a number of suggestions, but that was back the latter part of November, so maybe we could find a quiet time and try to push this along, because it's far from being complete. It's rough draft, but maybe we need to devote some time and try to get this thing solidified. And
who's reviewed it, Tim? Who has reviewed it?
I looked at it. I don't know who has a copy of it. I think you and Dave kind of put it together, but as to who has reviewed it or was asked to look at it, I don't know. So it's just something that
is it something we can kind of glance over like real quick next week? You still want to meet on the 11th and 13th for the budget? Can we? Will we be allowed to take 20 minutes out and go through that beforehand?
Could have, yeah. Who got this material?
I typed it up, added the information from Pfizer and Pratt Whitney and some other things I found.
So
all this back to Dave.
All this is from Dave?
I don't know what your role is, number one, because I'm assuming that you got it from Dave, and I don't know who you gave it to. I sent him by email at 4 in the morning one day, the revised draft. And then I don't know what he added to it, subtracted to it, and he gave it.
Well, I'll ask him, because it was a bunch of material, so, all right. But it's been in the slow lane here, so we'll try to, we could kick it around then maybe, but be nice to keep pecking away at it.
Well, I think Chris had a good suggestion.
Maybe we can huddle up and try to see where we're going with it. But, all right. All right, now the sound project updates, sound view. I had a discussion with Kurt, our engineer, about some particulars that need to go into the agreement for Portal Lance, and I think we have the dimension of the fence and so forth, so I think that's good. I noticed it says a right-of-way, and I asked Kurt, is this a right-of-way over someone's property, or is it not town property? And he replied he thought it was town property, so I think I either emailed or called, left a message for Attorney Carey about that, because we can, if it's town property, we probably need to say town property. And then he was going to change a couple things in here because one statement says we're allowing the fence to remain, but then there are other things that seem to contradict that, so we're going to get this resolved. So, and then the other thing is that the landowner who needs to sign the temporary rights agreement that we're going to be looking, hopefully at receiving something by the 6th, which is Wednesday. So if that materializes, fine. If not, then we'll probably have to make a decision what to do. So that's that part anyway.
Yeah, I really don't have much to add other than the only other TRA that's outstanding, the temporary rights agreement, is number 19. That's a trust. I did call them maybe a week ago, left a message, so I'll try again and see if we can get that done too. But it's only it's 29 and 19 that are outstanding, and 29 is obviously of more concern.
Okay.
And then our next meeting is January 14th.
Right. I'm looking at this. I don't see the normal, like we've got the people on the phone here. Let me try to redo this, because usually you see time elapsed and all that. Anybody on the phone? Let me try this. We may have to explore a competitor here. This Webex is not impressive.
You know, while you're doing that, I wanted to ask, can I double back to COVID? I wanted to add something. Is that possible? A question? Given the increase in cases...
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. Your entry is not valid, or the meeting has not...
I don't know.
Anyway, I was wondering what you thought, that you and Chris thought about whether our meetings, all our meetings in Town Hall should be virtual, and at least maybe till February when we get through this peak.
Well, no problem. We obviously don't never have a big turnout.
No offense.
One this week, we'll get 2 last time, if that.
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. Your entry is not valid.
I don't know what's wrong with this damn thing.
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. If you are the meeting host, enter your PIN followed by a pound. If you are not...
Pen or pound?
We hear people there, right?
Hello.
We've been having technical difficulties here, so you're patient to be standing by. Okay.
Is that Patty?
Is that Patty?
Yep, this is Patty.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we've covered something that I looked at the screen and noticed, even though it logged us in properly, it was not the normal numbers and so forth. So we'll continue. But we are at this project update with Sound View Sidewalks.
Okay, very good. I'll get the rest of the meeting off the tape.
Okay. Right. All right. Good. So we'll yeah. Okay. We'll mute then.
All participants have been muted.
Now, you're talking about meetings?
Yes. I wanted to ask for your thoughts on whether, given the surge, whether it makes sense that all our meetings would be virtual, at least till a certain date, maybe February 1st or something like that, just to protect not only ourselves but our families from inadvertent exposures.
Yeah. I don't know. I like this format with us. If you guys are uncomfortable, we can discuss it, but...
Oh, are you talking about not even meeting like this? No.
Virtual meetings until...
Oh, I thought you meant guests.
Pardon me?
I thought you were talking about our guests.
Oh.
Or open
Well,
public.
I mean,
So, yeah.
our guests also,
Yeah.
we're exposing them.
I mean, it's...
Well,
I'll leave it
the
up to
trouble
you.
is, you know, we have, if everybody goes virtual, we have to have Michelle run these meetings. And that's going to incur a lot of time above and beyond. Because like planning, I think, meets outside when it's acceptable. And I don't know with these committees, you know, we have a bunch of committees and they don't have budgets and all that stuff. So we have Michelle with a backup of Jennifer, but that's it. And depending on who's running the meeting, if they have to have somebody, if they have to have a staff person there the whole time, for instance, when I think it was the zoning meeting where Dan wasn't available and she had to be there for like 4 hours doing a meeting. So I really hesitate to, I mean, a phone is simple because you can use the phone and let the public in. When we get to the town meeting, I'll be discussing how much fun that's going to be. So I don't know, because I think if you do it remotely, you have to have it hooked up to a phone, or you have to do Webex, the video.
Or Zoom, or some other format.
So how would we do all the handouts and stuff?
Well, I mean, that would require us to obviously get everything electronically.
And how about with I know, so we want to meet next week, go over the budget and the books and stuff like that. That would be a nightmare.
Well, I know that
I mean,
COVID doesn't care about that.
No, I know COVID doesn't care. I mean, I felt comfortable with it doing this way. I mean, it's up to you guys. It's fine. I mean, do you not feel comfortable with this format?
I'm working really hard to keep my family from getting inadvertent exposure. I personally, if I lived alone, I'd be fine, but I don't.
No, I understand.
And that's why I'm raising the question. And as Tim pointed out, we doubled our numbers in a month. That's not a good direction. Tim doesn't wear a mask. You're sitting there without a mask. That's not a good thing.
I think it just, I don't know how well it comes through.
You wear one at Harbor Management, you don't wear one with us.
Well, that's why we have the 6 feet too. I don't catch a lot of what you're saying between the microphone and stuff, so I figured since I do most of the speaking, I'm next to the thing, and it's hard to say what's the best protocol, but...
That's why I'm throwing that out there. I mean, I think we need to consider it seriously, because things are not going in the right direction, and if all of us get exposed, that's going to be more of a problem for quarantine than calling in on a meeting. So I really would like to have the selectmen give that serious thought, and if, I think we should set a good example for the other boards and commissions too.
Can we look into like you were saying, maybe this Zoom's not working well, or there's another way of doing it easily?
Well, the phone works pretty well for us. I suppose boards and commissions that need something to be like a PowerPoint or some other display, that becomes a problem.
Well, we can also leave it up to their commission chairs. let, their board, their commission, see how they want to do it. Maybe they'll postpone some of it, maybe they can, maybe they can't.
Because the Webex video is more sophisticated than this, I gather. You've run them, I mean,
Yeah, if we're going to work with Webex video, Michelle and then her backup are the only allowed hosts. I mean, you could allow other hosts if you want, but she turns it on for me and gives me the host rights, so that's fine. But I'm not talking about forever here, specifically during this surge. I'm thinking maybe through like February, this expected doubling of the cases. Perhaps we should consider maybe through February making our meetings virtual or call-in.
Well, if we do call-in, we're definitely not having cameras.
Right.
So we'll have to do it over that.
Right.
But we can look into it, possibly, and try it. If it's a failure, then we can always spread out farther.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well.
But for like next week, I think, with the budget and the books.
I think we can spread out for sure on that, because we'll all be looking at the books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be televised.
No. Well, none of it has to be televised, but I mean, that's just being kind. But
I mean, I think for that meeting, given its imminence, we should probably meet in person, but definitely spread out.
Okay, so we're done with Soundview. Haynes Park, I think they're getting really toward the end on that. We've been talking about the first week in January, so I think the sheetrock is in. I think they're getting to the point of hanging the fixtures, and then they'll be painting and putting up some trim and so forth. So I think it's winding down, which is good. And I think Phil, our facilities manager, is very pleased with how things have been going. So it should be finishing pretty much on the adjusted schedule, but might be, in the early part of January here. Next one is Grassy Hill. Last meeting we heard from Howard Fromer, our engineer, and so I think we, the Board of Selectmen, need to talk it over and have a conversation with the Board of Finance. I guess the options are you could do nothing, keep the way it is. You could perhaps try to do something with the sidewalls to the bridge to make them a bit stronger, although I don't think there's lots of incidents where those things have failed and cars have gone off the edge. I don't know if I've ever heard of a car going off the edge of the bridge because the sidewalls are not that secure. The phone pole obviously is another impediment. Whether the phone pole could be moved anyway, I'm not sure that how the utilities would feel about making a change if the bridge were not being replaced. I think Howard talked to us about some economies, which probably in the aggregate wouldn't save a heck of a lot. I think he was talking about going, maybe getting rid of some of the masonry type stuff and doing more modest approach. And the engineering is about complete, so it's not as if if we stop work from standpoint of engineering, I think we're 90-something% complete with that. The engineering would have value for a future fix-up when and if that came along, but so I think maybe next week when we meet, we can look at how much money has been set aside by the town, because I think some of the numbers include the assumption that the grant would come through. So you have to say, if that grant was not in the picture, what really do we have? We know what the initial investment would be, but now it would be practically double. So over 2 years, you might be able to budget money to get to a higher, that new amount, but it would be a strain on the budget, of course. So, I don't know.
Jen, when we talked about our last meeting, you said you'd get a copy of the revised budget for review.
The copy of what?
The revised budget and what's been spent to date, so that we can look at the numbers.
Well, what he has is really just very gross categories, so it would be engineering, construction. He broke out a few things for us during the conversation, such as he said that the state has a 20 to 30% allowance on the construction side for unknowns, which is high. And then he talked about the road work itself at Route 1 as part of the reason why it went up a lot. But we have, I can show you the thing that the DOT has, which shows like 5 categories, totaling the total amount. So it doesn't really get into the detail of the construction budget, doesn't say all the elements of what's involved.
What do we have in the budget so far?
Well, I think we were working toward that initial 600,000 figure, including the anticipation of the grant. So I know the town has put away its own funds toward that.
Yeah, do you know what that number is?
I'd have to go back and check it out, but it would be ultimately 300 and something, be the 50%.
Right.
Now, I don't think that amount may have been amassed at this point. It might, since it was going to be next year, the work would be, well, the next fiscal year.
It'd be good to see that in writing. I think that would help me too. And I noticed when looking at our audit report for fiscal year 20 that the Mile Creek Bridge revised amended budget increased $323,500. So it's probably to be expected that this bridge would be increased too. Not the same bridge, obviously, but.
Well, the thing is, with this bridge, the way it sounded that he was explaining, the bridge itself is not that expensive or not that bad off. All the other things, redoing the road, moving the power pole, and everything else, is adding up.
Well, they have to remove the culvert,
right,
and put a whole new bridge in. So
right.
that's going to be.
And we're going to redo that whole intersection, come out more of a T.
Yep.
Get rid of the island, get rid of the power pole, move the power lines.
Now the power might be done by the utility at its cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there was a number in the calculation for power movement. So I think for our sessions next week we can try to develop. I talked to Alice Jewett, who lives right next to it, and I said, being right close to it, what do you think? And he felt that obviously there are big trucks coming around, might have trouble negotiating it. I suppose if somebody was really concerned, they could go down and turn around and come from the other direction, and it's pretty much of a straight shot in, as opposed to making a 100 and some odd degree turn into the bridge. I think he was of the opinion the thing seems solid from the lower part of it. obviously we know the sidewalls are masonry sitting on top of the deck, so I think you could say that it's been serving us for a long time, and it's not in dire need of repair. It's 4 out of 9, so it's about halfway. The state is not saying it must be done. Then I guess you say, well, what happens in X number of years when we finally do decide to do something about it? Will the 50% money be available or not? And what will it then cost? All that sort of thing.
Right.
But obviously it gets one's attention when it goes from 600 and something to $1.2 million. That's double. So I think it's really difficult to incorporate that in the budget along with other things that have to be done with that kind of an increase. We may have 2 fiscal years to plan for it, but I'm sure there are other things that are pressing as well.
Yeah. Well, and they did classify it as structurally deficient and functionally obsolete.
Right.
So even though it's a 4, it sounds like it's not in good shape. And I don't suppose it gets better over time.
Yeah, it's obviously not ideal, but if it's not terrible, why, I think we have to think hard about it. And
does Kerma have to be involved in that? Do they review this information as a concern for liability on the town?
from the standpoint of the insuring the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's part of the policy. I don't know if they get ratings on different roads and bridges and stuff to try to conclude, is there a bridge or some other asset that's unsafe? I guess unsafe might be a bit of an exaggeration, because just like a dam, you know, the DEP comes and looks at dams, and if they deem the dam to be in need of repair, like the one at Town Woods Road, you're pretty much obligated to do it. So I think if this bridge were really on the danger list of DOT, I don't think we would be allowed to do nothing about it. So.
Well, maybe next week we see how much money we have, and we'll start from there. Because I think there's something already we budgeted. I don't have it in front of me.
Right.
For this, and we'll have 2 more physical years, more likely.
But if you had the 50%, you'd have to come up with another 300. So, in the best case, you'd have to come up with 150 a year more,
right,
on top of everything else. So, we'll develop that for our, because we have those 2 meetings coming up next week. Okay, Ferry Road, I did speak to Joanne DiCamillo of the Tree Commission, and she has been in touch with the engineer, and she wants to have a separate, she and the tree warden want to have another opinion about the trees. If trees can be, if the sidewalk can be installed without damaging the tree roots significantly, that'd be great. If between the tree warden and maybe another authority, they could evaluate each and every tree that would be impacted and say the tree is a good tree, it's average, or it's in poor condition. And it would be similar to what we did out here on the Lime Street when we did the road. You'd probably talk to the homeowner, and it would you'd have to have a pretty good discussion with adjacent property owners and maybe even a wider variety of people, because if there was contemplated a lot of tree work removal, that would be pretty stunning and be very controversial. So I think we need to get that whole process in high gear, because if this project was to happen this coming summer, you know, we need to get going on it, get it figured out.
And you were going to look into the 4-foot, 5-foot sidewalk discussion we had early on. 5 foot is the town's standard, planning commission standard. But you were originally, I think the grant you thought was going to, I think the grant went in with 4-foot sidewalks, is that right? Or grant request?
I didn't.
Did it go in for a 4-foot sidewalk request?
4, yeah.
But our building standard is 5.
No, it's 4. That's what I was told.
Oh, it's 5.
These, I believe, are 4 up front.
I mean, right now...
They may be updated after this, because that's, I mean, I looked it up, and that's why we had to go with 5 foot for sound view. The regulation is 5 foot.
Well, when I read stuff, I believe it was 4 feet. Some of the panels look to be a little better than 2 feet at the moment.
Yeah, those are really narrow down there, like 2.5 feet at the max.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm suggesting that if a tree is in quite good shape, if you go close to the trunk of the tree, maybe have a conversation with the landowner, say, like we did up here near the youth service, could we put a little circular pattern around the tree for the life of the tree, with the idea that when the tree finally does go, the sidewalk could be straightened out, but try to bypass it. I don't know, when you're taking state money, that may complicate things. You may not have the flexibility, but this has to be resolved, because we can make all kinds of plans, but if there's a riot about the trees, you know, that we need to prepare for it.
But I think one of the other things we thought about is the other side of the street less treed. I still haven't looked at it, but in my mind I was wondering if that side is less treed than the side that's proposed for the sidewalk, the new sidewalk.
Yeah, you mean the other side of the street?
Mm-hmm.
There is sidewalk on both sides up near the church now. I suppose as you get down near the bottom, you could switch over with a crosswalk or something. Because I don't think you can go around that inner circle, because there's a beam rail there and some other stuff, so you couldn't make it all the way up to 156. You'd probably have to cross. But you might be able to cross at Lieutenant River Lane somehow. So we'll try to get that clarified a lot better. The Tanamahague Landing, we had a good meeting with George Frampton, one of the owners, and I went down there with John McDonald, who's the chairman of the harbor management, and I was later joined with Terry Lewis, who's on the harbor management as well. And I think the end result is that there would be general agreement to have 2 parking spots down in the grassy area down toward just toward the water side of the ice house and where the dam is. Right where we were looking, you could pull in far enough that you could then back out quite easily and have maneuvering room, because then if another car came after the 2 cars were there, you would want that car to be able to turn around and leave. We looked up near the gate, the entry to Tanamahague Road, as to what parking possibilities exist there. On the inside of the fence, or the inside of the wall, if you're leaving on the right, if you're coming in on the left, there's an area that might be possible, but I noticed that there are several, 2 or 3 good-sized trees, and that the land goes up probably a couple of feet from the roadbed up where the trees are. So if you tried to dig out a space for cars there, you might start interfering with the roots of the trees significantly. The other side is not particularly wide. You're getting near that water course, so you might be able to parallel park. So the other possibility would be on the outside of the gate, you might try something, but it's not other than really impacting some trees, there's no really great spot to put 1 or 2 cars parked up near that entry gate. While we were there, quite a number of people on foot were coming and going. I was surprised at how many people, forget what day it was, but they were coming down, looking around, and leaving. So it does get some decent foot traffic. So the commission, I believe, will be meeting this week, and I think the commission will probably come up with a recommendation. There was discussion about signage, which would be a big help. The rocks that had been placed on town property have been removed, so that's been rectified. And so I think the conversation went pretty well, and so I guess once Harbor Management talks about it, they can make a recommendation, and they'll probably lateral the ball to us, because their jurisdiction is more toward the water, although they take care of landings in general, so.
So the neighbors are well aware that this is town property.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think honestly that they purchased the property just before, right in the fall time frame, I think. So they came after the house had been empty for over a couple of years, which people got kind of casual about the property lines, and they came during the tree swallow migration, so you had a lot of people coming down to see that, and with nobody there, they could probably go where they were not supposed to go, but nobody was there to crack the whip. So we tried to say, you probably bought it at the worst time of the year. And now that you're here, I'm sure people will be more respectful, and of course nowadays all these sites are listed on the web, so what was a simple little town landing and only local people knew about it, now it's published all over the place. So I think we're heading toward a reasonable solution here. And we'll stand by for the Harbor Management recommendation. The contract for the police, as I think that you all know, that the police have agreed to the contract terms and so forth, so I sent you guys the contract. I looked at our tentative agreement sheet, and the contents of the agreement incorporate all those items. And so what remains to be done is to, if the Board of Selectmen is prepared to approve the contract, as has the union approved it, then we could sign it, and then we could have them sign it, and then we could release the details, make it public, if you will. So, have you had a chance to look through it and so forth?
I got it Saturday. I had a chance on Saturday.
I glanced over it, just looking at my phone, but,
Okay, well,
is there any way we can get it, like, printed out? I don't have a printer at home.
I can print you a copy of it.
Yeah, and it'll show the...
After this. Yeah, well, let's do, because it's,
We can wrap this thing up.
yeah, because unfortunately, there'll have to be some adjustments back to June 30th, so we're into the next 6 months, so. Maybe we could even do a special meeting, because I hate to wait 2 weeks. Okay. Concerning the annual town meeting, I've developed a list, and you guys can say if you think of other things, but one item would be to accept the annual town report, which Michelle Dickey has been working on. The next item is the affordable housing ordinance, and I'll check with the attorney to make sure, because he thought what had been drafted was a very good start, so it shouldn't be too much to finish that off.
Will we get a chance to review it?
Oh, sure.
Approve it? Okay.
Well, an ordinance to be approved at town meeting, we could recommend it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and we could even recommend that at our next meeting for that matter.
Assuming we get it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other is to amend the ordinance, which is 41, on the voting location. And I distributed to you both a write-up I did, and I shared this with the attorney. What he indicated is, given Executive Order 9H is in hotel, the town meeting, we would not be acting as a Board of Selectmen preempting the town meeting. Now, remote participation in municipal meetings, where the legislative body is a town meeting, the Board of Selectmen may hold a public meeting or hearing that provides for remote participation in its entirety, in conjunction with an in-person meeting, which will be referred to as a hybrid meeting. Remote participation shall include the opportunity to offer public comment. Officials conducting the hybrid meeting shall make provisions to allow at least some members of the public and press attend in the same location as the officials conducting the meeting in a manner consistent with public health guidance, which gets back to your earlier point.
Well, I mean, again, COVID is winning this game, not us, so they don't care if we have a meeting.
Yeah, so, but I was talking with Michelle on how it might work, because we have generally had meetings with the phone, and so if you wanted to have some kind of Webex thing, that wouldn't work in this room. And with the video and the audio and so forth, you get a lot of feedback and so on. So she was thinking that we could maybe dial into her phone, or her computer basically, and be one of the call-ins, this phone, and then we would be a phone type of WebEx, whereas other people could be using their computers and show up as a screen on the as part of the meeting. So we're trying to flesh that out, because trying to work something with the room here, it just seemed like it wasn't going to work. So it's beyond my pay grade, but that's what her suggestion was, that if we needed to have...
Could we not use one of our own PCs or laptops here? To also
Providing, I think when they're all, like when I'm on with Michelle in the next office, you get feedback going, and I don't know. But if you had 3 laptops here, let's say, it might, maybe one would everybody have to be muted except one. I just don't know the technology. Because we would have a moderator and we would have the town clerk doing the call and so forth. And so, and beyond the voting location, we need to also do the Citizen of the Year. So the town report, affordable housing, permanent voting location, Citizen of the Year, those are the things I came up with. We could, anything we needed to do ahead of time before the meeting, make like a recommendation on these ordinance things, we could do that, because we meet on the 19th and the meetings, that's a Tuesday, the meeting's the next Monday after that. But we have to notice, probably have to notice it in the paper too, which might have different time constraints. So, lots going on.
Well, back to the remote thing, could we say like you and the moderator be here in front of that, and Mary Jo and I just call in?
Possible.
It's a town meeting. There's really not much interaction with us, the moderator and you telling them.
It's possible. Probably you'd need the moderator, the town clerk, myself, and the way this executive order reads, it says, press and some people. So if the capacity level is 25%, you could have, excluding the people at the people I mentioned, the town officials, you'd have, say, 15 or so public press, maybe, and then the rest have to be remote. I don't know whether you could say everybody's got to be remote except for the officials. We'd have to get a little clarity on this. This contemplates having members of the public and press attending the same location as the officials.
So if they say we can only do 25%, we have it in this room, whatever that
100 about.
100, so you have 25 people, you eliminate the 3 of us, or 2 of us, you, moderator, and the clerk.
That's
So
17 net.
You have 22.
Or maybe 22.
We can remote in, and obviously that'll be on, and do that. Would that all be legal? Usually it's not a big turnout as it is.
Right. And you could postpone Citizen of the Year. That seems to be the main draw, frankly.
Yeah,
You
we
could
probably,
postpone that.
we can talk about that.
Yeah.
That could be postponed.
Right.
It's
Well,
not a
we
requirement
don't.
that we do a Citizen of the Year.
64-hour question is till when?
Yeah.
Because, if this is still, they're talking about, even though if you get your both shots, you probably still have to wear a face mask for another year or something. So.
But you could do a Citizen of the Year presentation virtually. Whoever this recipient is, you could bring the award to them and video.
Yeah, it would definitely change the nature of it, unfortunately, but.
Right. But we can also just not have it.
Yeah, we could.
All right, well, worst things that happen, that's not a bad thing.
Well, I don't know.
It's understandable.
I guess if if you couldn't do the typical auditorium thing and you get people there and they're surprised and stuff, then you just be a little less of a surprise and say,
You could do it, wait till the summer when everyone could be outside. You could do it out front of town hall or something like that.
yeah, well, all right. Can you all think of anything else that might be on the agenda beside those 4 items?
I can.
I think that's a good COVID town meeting.
Okay. Well, if something comes to mind, let me know in the next day or so.
The other thing with the ordinance, we need to get that out on the website and need to get it
The
out.
which?
The affordable housing ordinance, any ordinance, and we need to publicize.
Yeah, I would say we could put both the voting and, because this would be essentially a change to the ordinance, so both those things could go up. So I'll check tomorrow with, I think we have Jack doing one and Mike doing another one. And I would like to get this all tightened up so we know exactly what we're doing, because it's, we don't want to wait till the last minute and say, oh my gosh, the ad has to do this and we haven't done that and so on.
Could I make a motion to add another item to new business?
You want to do what?
Add an item to new business.
Can we do that?
That'd be item C. Something I mentioned at our last meeting, the Rogers Lake Dam O&M review. Can we just put that under new business? Because I had brought it up under other business last time.
You're saying under 6?
Yes, 6C.
Oh. Okay, what is it?
I'd like to make a motion to add Rogers Lake Dam O&M review to 6C.
Rogers Lake Dam?
O&M, operation and maintenance review.
Okay, operation and maintenance agreement?
Fine. I said review, but whatever. Mm-hmm.
Are you making that motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to add Rogers Lake Dam as 6C, operation and maintenance agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no oppose or abstain.
Thank you.
Now, this is a creature of the Rogers Lake Authority, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, we all got a copy by email of the document that was drafted by some members of the Rogers Lake Authority. And it's very well done. I hope you had a chance to look at it. Did you guys?
I didn't read.
I looked it over that night, I believe, when we passed it out, but I have not read it since then, no.
Yeah, okay. It's been already approved by the RLA. So my understanding is the document was sent to Town Hall for our review and recommendations as to next step. And it really would be more powerful to have it with the flood remediation program that's being developed by Nathan Jacobson. So we really have to get that going too. But the document it starts off by summarizing the key points of the operation and maintenance of the dam, and then there's specific areas below it with really requires responsibility to somebody to take this on. And what's really neat, I learned that they, even though the RLA approved it, they continue to test what they drafted in the document to make sure that the measurements and the work that they're doing is accurate. So the question, I think, to the Board of Selectmen was to look at it, to look for any typos. Like, for example, they had key people in the back that may have changed over the last 2 years when they drafted this, and we need to provide an update for them for that. And then I think what needs to happen is if we feel that this document is important, which I certainly do, we need to determine who has the authority to care for the day-to-day operations of the...
Yeah, we've had identified people for years, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's why they drafted this, because it's been somebody that may decide they're going to move, they're not going to do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the next person that's assigned needs to have a document that's accurate and a procedure to follow. And this is the first time that it's been documented. Roger, is it Roger Smith? Dick Smith, rather?
Dick, yeah, he's done it for a long time.
Yeah, and done a great job. So, I mean, I think these folks are dedicated. They spend a lot of time on it. They want to take care of it. It makes sense to me that they continue as the RLA continues to take that responsibility on. But I don't think it's ever been formalized. And I think that's their concern, that the folks that drafted this, is that it hasn't been formalized. And if these people decide, look, I'm retiring, I'm done, we don't have somebody else in line to take this on and knows what to do. And, I just really appreciate the RLA for doing that, for putting that, knowledge that's been in their head and practice down on paper. So my recommendation would be for all three of us to look at it, see if we see anything that jumps out at us that needs clarification or changing. And it's important to note again that they're verifying the steps that they put on this. And then if we, as the Board of Selectmen, concur that the RLA should continue to do this function, that we so vote that. And I was also wondering if we needed to run it by our legal and current, because I just don't know if this is, I don't think we've ever done this before. So does our insurance have to weigh in on this?
Rogers Lake Authority is comprised of representatives from Lyme and Old Lyme.
Okay.
So both towns need to be involved in this because the lake is 50-50 basically.
But the dam is owned by the town.
Okay. We probably want to get some input just to make sure. But yeah, we've usually had Dick with a backup of Ed Adante ready to move the gate up and down to let water out, and they stay tuned to the weather forecast, and if there's a rain coming, they start lowering the lake if it looks like it's going to be a significant rain. And every 4 years they have the water drawdown to do the dock repairs and so on. So there's a pretty good history of that water level management. Now, if it gets into more than that, if it's just for the dam, then I guess the fish ladder is part of it, right?
Yeah, the document speaks to just the dam and then what happens with the fish ladder in the spring, primarily to let the alewives through. And it talks about what happens every 4 years. It's very well documented. It doesn't address flood control. That's the other document that we really do need to get. But it just reflects the operational procedure of the actual dam and sluice gate.
And then there would be cutting vegetation as it might grow up and so forth.
Maintenance as far as if there was trash or there's something in the gate, it addresses that also. So something like that, Tim, that you have experience of, that would be appropriate, I think, to add to this.
All right.
It reads very well.
Who drafted this?
This is, let's see, Mr. Overfield. And
Dennis.
Dennis Overfield. And
Okay.
Mr. Haskins. Are two of the people. But again, it went through the RLA. The whole RLA approved it. So it's been in development for some time, and then they voted at one of their meetings to approve this document. And the other part that I think is really important is that the connections to the other people that may be involved, and there's questions with the deep, obviously Town of Lyme, all of these folks that may have vested interest, fish ladder involvement, they're all the stakeholders that are listed so that people that come after us have a blueprint of what to do.
Mm-hmm. So they would ultimately approve this. We could comment on it, but the authority would be the main player here, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I understand it now. Talking with Mr. Oldfield, he did say they have to, they've been advised they have to address the ordinance around RLA. So that may be the next development. I don't know how that, they are an authority, so I don't know. We'd have to look at our ordinance for that too. And, maybe there would be need to reference this manual in the ordinance, but we could look at that later.
You have the emergency action plan and some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was faxed out?
It was emailed.
Rather emailed?
A couple of weeks ago.
All right. From Dennis, did it come?
I think it went to Michelle, and Michelle sent it out to everybody.
Okay, I'll go back and check that.
If you can't find it, let me know. I wrote all over mine, but I'd be happy to send it to you.
All right, good.
So could we put that on the agenda for our next meeting then too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really give a shout.
Well, they're just looking for feedback from us.
Well, I think feedback, and also the fact that we've never done this before. They weren't sure what the process is. And they also want to make sure that, for example, does the town have a guideline for this sort of thing, like an SOP template? I don't believe we do. So they just did their own. So they're asking for our feedback and input. And I think, to their credit, they wanted to know, do we agree that the RLA should have the responsibility or the authority to manage this? Because, again, the town owns the dam. So I think that was their concern. Is it appropriate for them to manage the day-to-day operations and maintenance of the dam on behalf of the town?
That's the way it's been. It seems to work out quite well.
I agree.
Yeah, like I say, Ed Adante, our Public Works Director, is sort of in the backup to somebody who would be actually monitoring this thing. And I'm sure they can talk on the phone too about...
Yeah, but Ed has a key, and also a member of the Riders Lake Authority has a key.
Well,
in the past, years ago...
Dick Smith had the key.
Well, I don't know if it's Dave Eaters now, or Dick Smith, or the other gentleman, Dennis.
Dave Eaters has a key.
Yeah.
Because I think there was, sometimes they couldn't get in touch with some people and stuff like that, and, we get monsoon, so.
Well,
they for years have been self-maintaining this on their own, and, primarily doing a great job.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But, like Mary Jo said, they just.
Well, I think it would be, if we could keep it in their bailiwick, that would be great, because...
Well, I think that's what they want, too, because they're more hands-on than...
Sure.
Obviously, town.
Yeah, a lot of the members live around the lake and so on, so that they're much more plugged in than Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. They have the communication process down for the drawdown. I mean, it
Yeah.
is perfect. It makes perfect sense. But the first time we actually can see what it is we're expecting these volunteers to do, which is quite a bit. And I guess the other question to the selectmen when we're looking at this is, should we require documentation? I don't know. And is that something our legal and insurance department can tell us? Should we be documenting that, once a month, such and such, the level is checked, or I don't know. A little bit more formalized.
I think heretofore it's just been based on weather conditions. We will do what we have to do, but I don't know if we want to overcomplicate it and have reports and documentation, because if it's a volunteer that does it, they should do what has to be done, but maybe not go overboard. So.
Well, that's why I wondered, did we need to have our insurance look at this?
Yeah. All right, we'll look it over. Put it on.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will, let's see, 9:09. Does anyone on the telephone wish to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none.
All participants have been muted.
Gentleman here like to make a public comment? All set? Okay, very good. We can then turn to other business that selectmen may have.
For the meeting, you asked last week about the 11th and 13th at 4 o'clock for the budget books.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So
You can do both of
I
those.
can do both. So.
Good. Well, we may have to do it in here if we need to have the phone possibility. I haven't talked with Nicole about it. Before we were upstairs, but I don't know. In as much as it's.
Well, maybe we can have one with the phone, and maybe we can get those two tables set up there, so we can put our books out. And we'll be,
Well, we're not going to have books. She'll probably hand out some summary stuff. Yeah.
Paperwork out. We can.
Well, it'd just be Nicole, really.
Right. So you'd be maybe 3 other tables, or put one down here, one there, and two over there. This way, everybody feels safe.
Mm.
Instead of all of us laid out around here.
Yeah.
It's simple and easy to do.
Yeah, I think the books come out on the 19th, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And we're doing that at 4 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Well, maybe what I'll try to do. Maybe we'll try to incorporate one of those to do the police contract. Maybe the first one, if we met slightly earlier, it could be very brief.
15 minutes early?
Something like that.
I still have to work, so. Let me change it.
Either that or we could pick something later in the week this week.
I'd rather go a couple minutes early on that day.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah.
So let's say, I think the 12th is the first one, I think, isn't it?
No, the 11th and 13th.
Okay, so the 11th, it'll go 3:45. So it's going to be kind of a pro forma. We can't get into a long-winded thing about it, I think, because it's pretty well. 15 minutes to go by quickly if we get into a discussion about it. Okay, so I'll get something out for that. And I think what would happen is we could have some signature pages, and then we could make copies for additional, because I think there'd be the union and then the bigger union behind them. You know, they're a subset of the union. So we'll make some additional pages. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Tim, some time ago, the EDC submitted some information on a business guide review, and I know it was discussed at the Board of Finance.
The EDC what?
They have a business guide that they're...
Well, they received approval to utilize the funds that they had carried over for this with, used to be what, CERC, and now it's a different name. And so there was a memo from Howard about all that would happen, and it would be about town regulations and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So
we
they're...
didn't discuss it here, did you? Were we going to ask for a review of that, or does it matter?
Well, he said, can we get that access to money? And the Board of Finance was fine with it. So they're going to proceed with them, I guess. I don't know what the time frame is. They indicated in the memo, or the email, that it was an hourly rate of $200. So that won't last that long if there's a long-winded work. But yeah, they should be all set with that.
It sounded like a really great initiative, so I just wanted to bring it up because I know we haven't talked about it as a Board of Selectmen, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. One of the other things we talked about periodically over the year, past year, is HR function or HR review for the employees. And I was wondering, I think you had said at one meeting you were going to put a problem together. Haven't heard anything on that.
Yeah, I made some phone calls, and I think some of the towns, like Essex, it's pretty internalized. There's no real outfit that they have. I think it's done by an attorney in a couple of cases, similar to our attorney. But so we've got two aspects of it. One would be just the day-to-day stuff. If you hire somebody or somebody leaves, and then you get into the HR stuff that would be compensation related, and I think we're going to probably want to talk about that this go around, because I think the last review of positions and rates was probably about 10 years ago. And so it might be worthwhile updating that just to see where we stand, because some positions go up, some down, but 10 years is a while. We do have some funds that have been carried over and so forth, but if we want to do a full-blown study, we might have to get some quotes on that and prepare for it from a budget standpoint. So we'll hopefully develop more on that. But in terms of a firm or any consultant sort of thing, I haven't really gotten a good, other than people saying we've used this lawyer who they think, I mean, not necessarily the same lawyer, just a lawyer that they like. I didn't, in the 3 places I spoke with, I didn't get, we use this company and it's been great type of thing as a consultant to help us do the paperwork and so on. So try, I think maybe CCM might be a reference too. They may have some bright ideas.
Well, can we possibly, since we're going to the budget season, maybe budget something for HR survey or consult,
Yeah, and I think we have some funds that are available that could do a good chunk of it already.
Okay.
So it would be a small amount, relatively speaking, to get what Nicole thought would be what would be needed. In terms of the full spectrum, you have the wage and salary guideline, and then you have other HR type stuff. And I think it would be a relief to have somebody well equipped to be able to field questions on an hourly basis to say, okay, we have this situation, can you help us out?
Yeah, I agree. I think from what the emails we were all receiving, is that it was kind of overwhelming the finance department with HR functions. And that's not fair. I was just also wondering if you've gotten any feedback from the residents on Library Lane. We've been tracking.
Not a word.
And there's no report from Tom Metcalf at this point then?
We're not going to do anything until we hear back. So I think I'll write him a letter and say, we were out there 3 weeks, maybe more, and we haven't heard anything.
About what that pipe is?
Yeah.
Questioning. Okay. And then I guess my last thing is that, it's a new year, 2021, and I wanted to start again with a new request for the Board of Selectmen to consider signing the resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis, as our neighboring towns have, and I think we should join with them to make that choice to sign that resolution. I also think that I think we can also work together in a cohesive fashion to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we're making an active commitment and active effort to make sure that our town is doing the right thing and welcoming to all and for all. So, do you all need another copy of that?
I still probably have the same copy.
You probably have. Many copies.
I didn't throw it out, but.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I only made one copy in that continued effort. It really came out very large print. I apologize, but maybe you guys could share this. This is this is just an article from Boston College, some staff, educators, and just some more information that I'm trying to share with other people, other towns are recommending. Other information, so I know sometimes the terminology can sound kind of onerous, but basically it's just to make sure that
I'll make you a
our
copy of this.
governmental
Just make me a copy of the
services are fair and equitable, and that going forward, we make a commitment to maintain that and to collect the data and assure that all the instances that lead to poor health outcomes and inequity are addressed in our town, and I would hope our region too. That's all I have.
All right, so it's 5:41. If we've reached the end of the matters to discuss, we could call for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Hope we didn't bore you too much, huh?
No, I'm honored to be
Good.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
David Vitale.
Hi, David. Mary Jo knows.
Nice to meet you.
Did you say Vitale?
Yes.
Are you related to Vitale Heflin?
No, on Colt Lane. Barbara is my mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vitali?
Vitali. So one L.
There's another, I think there's another battalion on Heflin Farm down near the
That's
Hallmark ice cream.
That's Reno.
Oh, is that Reno? Right.
Is that
Right,
name?
he's the other one. Yeah, no, but we're not related. We're not related. Yeah, and his wife was a teacher, right?
I'm not sure, but he walks a lot.
Yeah, you remember Blackhawk?
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So you interested in getting on a border commission?
Well, it's a start. Just
All right. We'll bring you into the web. Slowly.